Sir John A. Macdonald was born January 1815 and he lived until June 6, 1981. Macdonald was born in Scotland, and when he was 5 years old, his family immigrated to what was then the province of Upper Canada. They settled in the Kingston area. When he was 15, he began to article for a prominent lawyer in Kingston. When he was 17, he managed a branch legal office, and when he was 19, he opened his own legal office. 2 years later, he was called to the Law Society of Upper Canada, where he became an accomplished lawyer, businessman, and politician. Macdonald got into politics at the municipal level. He was alderman of Kingston from 1843 to 1846. When he was 29 years old, he was elected to the Legislative Assembly of the Province of Canada to represent Kingston. He received his first cabinet post as Receiver General in 1847. Macdonald moved on to the post of Attorney General of Upper Canada. Then he went on to become the Joint Premier of the Province of Canada. Macdonald was a key member in the creation of the new political alliance, the Liberal Conservative Party, which brought together the Conservatives with an already existing alliance between Upper Canada Reformers and the French-Canadian majority political bloc. They were known as the Blues. He also played a key role in the Confederation of British North America in 1867, which brought together Ontario, Quebec, New Brunswick, and Nova Scotia to form the Dominion of Canada. Next, he engineered the British North America Act and the Union of Provinces, which became Canada. As the first Prime Minister of Canada from 1867 to 1873, and again from 1878 to 1891, he set policy goals for future generations of political leaders. He was the founding father of the Canadian Confederation, and his political career lasted for almost half a century. Throughout his political career, he oversaw the Transcontinental Railway to the Pacific Coast. The railway, in effect, made future settlement in the West a greater possibility. His involvement in the Pacific Scandal and the execution of Louis Riel are a continued topic of debate for our country. His Aboriginal policies and legislation involving Chinese immigrants produce controversy and division in our nation. Though there is a lot of controversy which arises from his leadership, it is clear that he worked to produce the British North America Act and the Union of Provinces, which became Canada. Through his leadership, Macdonald caused a lot of hurt for this country, especially with his Aboriginal policy, including the development of the residential school system and increasingly repressive measures against Aboriginal populations in the West. Along with repressing the Aboriginal populations, he excluded persons of Mongolia or Chinese race from voting, because they had no British instincts or British feelings or aspirations. This was known as the Electoral Franchise Act of 1885. The same year, they passed the Chinese Immigration Act, which stated that anyone of Chinese origin had to pay a head tax of $50 upon entering the country.
Sir John A. Macdonald was brilliant, and when he had goals he wanted to achieve, there was nothing and no one who could stop him. If he thought something was necessary, he was going to achieve it. Right from the very beginning of his political career, he developed shrewdness and ingenuity. He used his political position and weight to keep a remarkable degree of personal control over the functioning of the Conservative Party, and was adept in using patronage for political advantage. He was a highly prejudiced politician, partly because he genuinely believed that his way was the only way.
Louis Riel was born October 22, 1844 in St. Boniface, Red River Settlement. He died November 16, 1885 in Regina, Saskatchewan. Riel was the firstborn in a family with 11 children. He grew up in a locally well-respected family and he left Red River at a young age to study in Quebec. His original education and formation was the vocation of priesthood. Riel sought to preserve Métis rights and culture as their homelands were increasingly in danger of losing their right to the traditional Métis Francophones way of life. Over the decades, he is made a folk hero by the Francophones, the Catholic nationalists, the Native rights movement, and the New Left student movement. Riel has received more scholarly attention than practically any other figure in Canadian history. He was elected president of the Métis National Committee in order to protect the social, cultural, and political status of the Métis in Red River and the Northwest. Riel brought forth the Manitoba Act stating that the federal government agreed to reserve 1.4 million acres for the children of Métis residents of Manitoba and ensured that the province would be officially bilingual. It was after the Manitoba Act that Manitoba received the status of a province that would be signed to be part of Canadian Confederation. Riel led two popular Métis governments. He was elected 3 times to the House of Commons of Canada, although he never actually took his seat. His work halted the Canadian land surveys in October 11, 1869, and he caused a massive stir when he ordered the execution of a government employee named Thomas Scott. The Métis government of the Red River settlement seized Upper Fort Garry from the HBC, and with little resistance from the HBC officials under the guidance of Riel. His actions in leadership, fighting for rights and justice for his people, led to him being executed for high treason. Riel led the Red River Rebellion of 1869 to 1870, negotiated the terms under which the modern province of Manitoba entered the Canadian Confederation, and led the Northwest Rebellion of 1885. Riel was a passionate Métis who fought with vigor for the rights of the Métis people. He was a diplomatic leader who was not afraid to rebel against the government in place in order for a justice to prevail. He was a committed leader and a well-educated man. He was a leader who showed the way and didn't expect anything of his people that he wouldn't do himself. David Suzuki and his twin sister Marcia were born March 24, 1936, in Vancouver, Canada. They were the first of 4 children born to second-generation Japanese Canadians. In 1942, while Canada was at war with Japan, the federal government forced all Japanese Canadians off the west coast, effectively declaring them enemy aliens. The family was forced to move to an internment camp in Slocan, British Columbia, and had to give up most of their possessions. Their new home was 1 room in a dirty, rundown old hotel. Toward the end of the war, in 1945, the Suzukis were moved to another camp in Caslow, BC. After the war, the family was forced to leave the province, resettling in Leamington, Ontario, where they were the first visible minority family in the small community. In 1950, they moved to London, Ontario. Suzuki is quoted as saying, "My loneliness during high school was intense. My main solace was the large swamp, a 10-minute bike ride from our house. Any marsh or wetland is a magical place, filled with mystery and an incredible variety of plants and animal life." After high school, Suzuki attended Amherst College in Massachusetts. In 1958, he received a Bachelor of Arts degree in biology. He went on to study at the University of Chicago and in 1961 graduated with a PhD in zoology, becoming a geneticist. Suzuki was a professor at the University of Alberta in 1962 until 1963, before joining the University of British Columbia, where he would remain for the rest of his academic career. In 1969, he won a Stacey Memorial Fellowship as the best young Canadian scientist. He specialized in meiosis and the study of mutations caused by changes in temperature. In 1971, the CBC TV series Suzuki on Science began to make him a public figure. While continuing his university teaching and research in genetics, he was the first host of the radio series Quirks and Quarks in 1975. And he hosted The Nature of Things, which was the longest-running documentary series in CBC TV. He drew 1.8 million viewers per episode in 1985, with the CBC special A Planet for the Taking. For this program, he received the Environment Program Medal from the United Nations. In 1993, Suzuki worked with the British Broadcasting Corporation and the American Public Broadcasting Service on the series The Secret of Life. In 1994, he worked with the Discovery Channel on The Brain. In 2008, Suzuki and his youngest daughter, Sarika, launched a CBC TV show, The Suzuki Diaries, about sustainability issues around the world. Suzuki is the author or co-author of more than 50 books. Nearly 20 of these works are for children. Suzuki has received many honors and awards. These include 5 Gemini Awards for his work in Canadian television, as well as the 2002 John Draney Award for Broadcasting Excellence. He has 29 honorary degrees from universities in Canada, the United States, and Australia. And in 1986, he received the Royal Bank Award and the UNESCO Kalinga Prize for the popularization of science. In 1995, he received the Order of British Columbia. Suzuki was named an Officer of the Order of Canada in 1976 and was elevated to Companion in 2005. He received a Lifetime of Achievement Awards from the University of British Columbia in 2000, and in 2009 he won the Right Livelihood Award, known as the Alternative Nobel Prize, which recognizes outstanding vision and work for the planet and its people. Suzuki was inducted into Canada's Walk of Fame in 2017.
In 2014, Suzuki launched the Blue Dot Tour alongside many other celebrities. The 20-event tour spanned the country and publicized the fact that Canada does not officially recognize the right to live in a healthy environment, unlike more than 110 other countries. The tour aimed to promote the inclusion of this right in the Canadian Charter of Rights and Freedoms. Suzuki uses a combination of personal charm and scientific ability to lead people across the world to a better understanding of our environment and how all of our actions cause changes to the land, earth, sea, and all other life. Suzuki's leadership is backed in research and studies and leads with proof and documentation.